Good evening and welcome to 5 a Day with Jay. I am your host, J.R. Murdock. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you? Wonderful that you're here. The year was 1985, I believe. It was a little while ago. I had two really good friends in high school, Sean and Jeff. We did everything together. We were the motley crew. We were the misfits of the high school we went to. The high school we went to was very much the straight-laced jocks and the cheerleaders and the nerds, and that was about it. I hung with the nerds. I met Jeff in a computer programming class. Sean I met in a theater class. Yes, I covered all the ranges of nerdism back in the day. Sean and I were the ones that, when I talk about Dungeons and Dragons stories and the characters we played, Sean was the one that played Dungeons and Dragons, along with Pat and Cam Roth, who I lost touch with over the years. I wish I could find them. At any rate, Sean, Jeff, and I were the only three people in Durango High School that had long hair. Yes, there were a couple of guys that had the short mullet, but we were the long hairs. We had the hair. Sean and Jeff were a year ahead of me, and I was a year younger than everybody else in my class. Therefore, I was 2 years younger than Sean and Jeff, well, a year and a half, roughly. But I believe it was 85, might have even been the summer of 85. As I said, the three of us did things all the time together. Jeff had a hunting orange El Camino. He loved that car. If we weren't in that one, we were in Sean's parents' Toyota. We did a number of fun things together. Just some of the things that we would do at lunchtime. We would leave campus. We weren't supposed to do that. We would leave campus and go get lunch. We found a gas station, the Giant gas station in Durango. It was a brand new gas station. They had $1 burritos there. We would get the $1 burritos and $1 icy. So for $2 we would get lunch. It was the thing to do. We loved doing that. And we would, in Sean's mom's car, we would pack the wrappers and smash the icy cups and pack those into the ashtray. Until one day Sean's dad tried to open the ashtray and realized it was so jammed shut he couldn't open it, and it took Sean and I both to pull that ashtray out and realize how much we had packed in there. And oh my, we had packed a lot in there. At any rate, Jeff, if you're a record collector, go find my friend Jeff Vonstock on Facebook and go follow him and just tell him, hey, J.R. Murdock told me to come follow you and say hi. He's a record collector. He's been collecting since well before I knew him. And he always had a record player, always was playing records, albums, music. He introduced me to a lot of the bands that I listened to. At any rate, we were out driving around, goofing around, being teenagers. We, for some reason, had found out that one of our other friends that we knew, Bob Cooley, was the later night DJ at the local Durango radio station, KDGO, K-Dog we called it. He worked the latest shift, and he would essentially either set the system up to run on auto. They would have a giant tape that would run. Normally he would be monitoring that, or he would, occasionally pause that, spin a record, play one song, and then get back to it. We knew he was there. My friend Jeff wanted, and he told me the story on Facebook earlier, he wanted desperately to get on the air, to expose people to the music that he was so passionate about, he loved so much. He really wanted to get on the air. He actually kept hounding the station manager. Look, it'll be late at night. Nobody's listening. It'll be my thing. It'll be incredible. It'll be awesome. People will love it. People want this kind of music. Go to the record store, see what people are buying. They're buying this kind of music right now. They want a radio station. KDGO was the one radio station in Durango, and they played oldies. This is the 80s. When I'm talking about oldies, I'm talking 40s and 50s. I'm talking the Beatles that was racy if you played it on K-Dog. No, we're talking the old music. Even it was old even in the 80s. think about nowadays. That was the kind of stuff they're playing. Now, in my defense, I grew up with that kind of music with my mom, my dad to a minor degree, but I grew up with that kind of music. I grew up with classic country music, Johnny Cash, Dolly Parton, and even older in the Beatles. But all that going back, I listened to, and with my grandpa, I would listen to big band music. So my musical taste really covers the gamut. If you pick something with music, there's probably something I can identify that I enjoy. There's certain stuff that I epically do not enjoy, but there's a very wide range that I do enjoy. At any rate, Jeff talked all the time wanting to have his own radio show. I was like, yeah, Jeff, yeah. He was a character, though. When we would go to his house, as I said, he would spin records, and he's like, oh my gosh, you guys got to hear this one. Oh, I got this latest album. You got to hear this one. Or he had a tape, and he was trying to fast forward and find that song. That's how passionate he was about music, and that passion still remains. He's still, like I said, on Facebook, every couple of days, he's at home right now because of disability for a little bit of time, but every day he's posting, this album, mail call, got this album in the mail today, this picture disc, this color disc, this limited edition Japanese press. He will tell you a story about every album before he plays it and why he's playing it. At any rate, today he posted an album cover, and it's like, oh my gosh, I remember this album cover. Back in the 80s, there were a lot of compilations because of Dr. Demento. There were a lot of compilation albums, Funny Bone Favorites, all these greatest hits of all these funny songs. That'll come in later. Remember that album. At any rate, Bob Cooley was working at K-Dog, and we decided, hey, we should go get Bob to play some heavy metal. He's there. He's our friend. He will do this. He will totally do this for us. Jeff was amped. And when I told him the story, he's like, that sounds vaguely familiar. And even his brother was like, oh my gosh, I remember this story. At any rate, we go downtown because the K-Dog radio station was downtown on a corner. We went down to the radio station, and we're like, waving at Bob, banging on the glass. He's in there, got the headphones on. You could see the DJ sitting there. He was listening to the music, and he was doing homework or something. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was either probably Friday night or Saturday night. Either way, it was a weekend night, so we didn't have school the next day. So we were out goofing around, and Bob lets us in. Oh my gosh, we got into the radio station. We got into the DJ booth, and we're just sitting there talking with him. You could see the giant reel over there in the corner just spinning away. And he's explaining to us all the technical stuff behind how the radio station lets that tape run, and how he can pause it in between songs. And if he feels like spinning a record, he's got this very specific set of records that he can play that are right there, and that's all he can play. Now that I think about it, that's where the record came from. Jeff had brought in one of his records, probably an Iron Maiden, might have been Judas Priest. It was something. And he's like, come on. The lyrics are clean, but it's a really good song. You got to play it. And Bob's like, no, you don't understand. It is my job. If I play that, I will get fired. I like my job. I enjoy what I'm doing here. I'm not going to play this album for you. We begged, we pleaded, we tried to bargain and bribe him, going, come on, you got to do this. Everybody will love you for it. They won't fire you. We tried everything to convince Bob to play the album, and he would, no, very staunch. I am not going to play that. If you guys want me to spin you a record, pick something out of that basket right there. And maybe a dozen albums at best. And Jeff relented, and he's like, oh. And he just starts digging through the albums. And he found one of those Funny Bone favorite albums. And he's like, this, you have to play a song off of this. And Bob's just like, oh, no, how did that get in there? No, I'm not playing something off that record. You got to pick something on one of the classics. And Jeff is, again, the salesman that he is, the bargainer that he is. No, look, these are clean songs. These songs have no swear words in them. And they are oldies. These songs are they were early 60s, late 50s. They were older songs. Come on, you have got to play one of these songs. You've got to play one of these songs. Finally, Bob relented, and we all voted on a song, and he paused the tape after a song, talked about how we had come into the studio and how we were talking and what a good time that it was. He was very diplomatic about it, but we were abusive to him. We were trying everything, but Bob was super nice and introduced the album, played the song. We're in there. Yeah, we got a song played on K-Dog. Yeah, everybody's gonna know it was us. We talked about that probably the whole next week when we went back to school. Everybody heard that story. I'm sure Jeff talked about it for a long time afterwards, even if he's having a fuzzy memory moment when I was talking about him on Facebook. But we had an absolute blast just going in there and doing that, playing that record, getting that song played, bargaining as much as we did to get it played. We did not have musical tastes that a majority of the town had. I'll have a story another day about how the town's musical taste changed, and it changed mainly because of Sean and Jeff. Sean and Jeff, they were seniors when I was a junior, they were juniors when I was a sophomore. I just kind of hung around with them. I was very quiet, I was very shy. Those two, very boisterous and outgoing. Everybody knew who Sean and Jeff were at Durango High School. Me, not so much, and I wound up leaving my senior year and going somewhere else. But everybody knew Sean and Jeff. Again, as I said, I will tell another story probably next week about when we did the talent show and what happened with the talent show when we played and what happened many years later when we went back to Durango and we were like, oh my God. Again, another fascinating story from my high school. At any rate, it is Friday evening. I just wanted to tell a little story. Thought it would be fun. I will tell other stories another time. Next week, Wednesday. Oh my gosh. If you're in the future, you already know about this. But Giant Robot Planetary Competition Book 2, Wednesday next week. I'm excited. I can't wait for this book to come out. It's a great book. Again, I have my expectations set. I'm not expecting much. At any rate, this has been 5 A Day with Jay. I've been Jay. You've been awesome. Until next time.